this, we are leaning on this, and without the tax cut that was put into place by President Trump in his first term, if that's allowed to expire today, if this bill does not pass, that hikes taxes for 68% of working Americans.
Right, and the biggest hikes would be for the lower household income. So, and also the pro-growth aspect of this, right? We want to grow this nation. We want to grow the economy. And taxes are a central part of that, particularly for corporations.
Hold the vice president breaking the tie right now, which means they had some no votes from those Republicans. This bill, the big, beautiful bill, has passed because the vice president of the United States, J.D. Vance, has come to the Hill more than once thinking that he would do this. And when he showed up this morning, they were right. He would be needed. He has done it. Let's listen and see if there is any audio that we can take in.
Okay. Pursuant to the order, 4 February 29, 1960, the hour of 12 noon having arrived, the Senate having been in continuous session since yesterday, the Senate will suspend for a prayer by the Senate chaplain.
Let us pray. Eternal, ever-blessed God, help our senators to walk on your path for the glory of your name. Help them to walk with humility so that they will strive to be servants of the people. Help them to walk with forgiveness so that they will forgive as they desire to be forgiven. Help them to walk with courage so that nothing will deflect them from the way they ought to take. Help them to walk with endurance so that nothing may daunt or discourage them until they reach their goal. Lord, help them to walk with loyalty so that nothing will ever seduce their hearts from their devotion to you. We pray in your loving name. Amen.
I just wish more senators would take the last part of that prayer to heart and to actually follow after God, to actually have endurance and loyalty and perseverance to do the will of God. So often, most of them don't, which is once again, although they got the big, beautiful bill passed, it has got some warts on it now, thanks to some rhino senators hiding behind the parliamentarian. We're going to get into that. But the most important thing is it has passed. It is now headed back to the House for the final part of reconciliation. It is now up to the House to try to fix some of this stuff as much as can be fixed so that we can get the tax cuts permanent. Because what we do not want is a tax hike on 68% of Americans. And that tax hike would hit hardest for those in the lower and middle income brackets. So we need to get the tax cuts passed. We need the money for border enforcement and for the ICE deportation. There's lots of things in this big, beautiful bill that are absolutely laudatory. But now there's some actual warts on stuff that is missing because of the Senate nonsense. We're going to dive into that. Thanks so much, everybody, for rolling up. Gene Nunez-Toburn, first in from the MBTA computer rail. Rick in the house, Sarah Carroll in the house, Glenn and Shannon Salty Life. Hey, welcome in. Thanks everybody for being here. Really appreciate you rolling up to Courageous Media. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Really appreciate everybody being here. Also share this if you like the content. You can now join us as a member on YouTube or Patreon because we have been remonetized after almost a 9-month fight with YouTube. But here we are back. So let's dive into this bill. I first want to jump in with Stephen Miller, who always has President Trump's back. He is talking about what is in the big, beautiful bill and the fantastic elements of it. Let's dive right in. We'll start there.
I've spent my entire life in the conservative movement. Since I was a kid in high school, working, dreaming of the day where we could have a piece of legislation like what exists right now, Sean, what President Trump has brought to the precipice of passage. Each and every one of the individual titles in this bill would be considered one of the great achievements in the history of the conservative movement. The title, for example, building the missile defense shield for the United States of America, Sean, so we can be safe, our children can be safe from foreign adversaries in this growing era of intercontinental ballistic missiles as nations race for supremacy. The section on this bill enshrining border and homeland security, this is the most far-reaching border security proposal, homeland security proposal in my lifetime. Sean, not just my lifetime, going back to Eisenhower, going back to since we've had conversations about the border, Sean. I take this seriously. I've stood by the families whose kids have been murdered by illegal aliens. We made them a promise. Most importantly, the American people voted to fulfill that promise in the last election. This bill fulfills it. It is the largest tax cut and reform in American history. No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, 100% expensing for new factories. Think about that. Every single business owner with a dream of manufacturing in America can deduct 100% of that cost to make the American dream come true here in the United States. Here's another one for you, Sean. The largest welfare reform in American history. Work requirements on food stamps, work requirements on Medicaid, the two largest welfare programs that exist, and now we are attaching work requirements to those programs. Orders of magnitude larger than the welfare reform that Republicans enacted into law in the 1990s. I am sick and tired of the lies about this bill that have been perpetrated by opportunists who are trying to make a name for themselves. This is the most conservative bill in my lifetime. Tax cuts, defense, border security, homeland security, welfare reform, and the largest spending cut in one bill that has ever been enacted. So, Sean, let's work together. Let's pass this bill. Let's get it to President Trump's desk by July 4th.
Absolutely. Okay, so Stephen Miller is obviously going to 100% toe the party line. Stephen Miller is a loyalist. Stephen Miller is brilliant. Now, this bill is absolutely the best piece of legislation we have seen in the last 8 years, bar none. Okay, ever since the first President Trump tax cut, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, this is the best piece of legislation we have seen in that time frame. Now, the two best parts of this bill are the pro-growth incentives, tax cuts, energy dominance, the 100% write-off for new factories, all of the pro-growth initiatives which will help to drive the Trump economic engine. It's going to be a massive boon for businesses and hence for employees throughout the country. We are going to see the president's economy start to gain momentum. What has already been started, you've seen the shufflings of it, will now really begin to start rolling down the tracks. When we get this passed, the only thing that will remain is to either get Jerome Powell on board or to get rid of him and get the interest rates down. So that's the first best aspect of this bill. The second is all of the border security, mass deportation, funding, and incentives that are baked into the bill. That is the other best part of this bill. Now, he did mention that is the largest spending cut in any single bill, at least in modern times. And that is absolutely true. The problem with this bill is that it should have been much bigger spending cuts, and specifically, it should have ripped all of the illegals off of Medicaid. Now, that didn't happen because there's a bunch of Senate rhinos hiding behind the parliamentarian because they really don't want to do what they don't want to do. So we're going to dive into the two negative aspects of the Senate version of the bill, not the bill in general, but what has come out of the Senate. Gene Nestor, yes, congratulations. Awesome news. Has passed the Senate. This is rolling down the tracks. We are getting ever closer. Oh, yes. Thank you for being for my monetization. Absolutely. Glenn and Shannon and Gene, really appreciate you guys hanging in there with me. Please share this with everybody that you know. We got to get back on top of the YouTube algorithm. Now, back to the big, beautiful bill. Let's dive in because I want to, we've got Matt Gaetz, who was on with, I believe it's Posobiec, but let's check in with Matt Gaetz as he talks about the bill with Jack Posobiec. Here we go.
We've won the 12-day war. We've also won the war against regime change. And now the war is about the big, beautiful bill. Where do we stand?
Well, we got very unfortunate news today that there are certain wins for the America First movement that were hard fought by the Trump administration and the House to get into this legislation that will not be considered by the full Senate if they get to the bill because of something called the Byrd rule. So I'm gonna take you into the weeds here, but in order for legislation to only need the 50 votes of 50 Republicans plus the vice president, the Byrd rule says that it is only fiscal policy matters that can be considered. You can't go outside of something that deals with the budget. That is the sandbox you get to play in. And so within that, the House of Representatives thought, well, one of the big drivers of costs in this country is health care that we're giving to illegal immigrants through the Medicaid program. And so if we put a limitation on that in the bill, it fits within the sandbox and is good policy, delivers on a promise we made to people. We got word today that that is being taken out of the legislation by the Senate parliamentarian. Secondarily, there was legislation to stop federal funding for these mutilations on children in the name of like sex change surgeries. And that also has been taken out of the bill, the prohibition against that removed by the Senate parliamentarian. And know this. The game you're watching is not the game that's being played. This is a fiction. This is a construct. There are certain senators who are beholden to the hospital industrial complex, and they want to see those federal dollars still move to the hospitals where the executives make donations to their campaign that maybe, are very woven into the political establishment, and they don't want the blame for that. And so they've set up this system where the Senate parliamentarian takes the blame. And no one voted against her. We did not go walk the streets in Pennsylvania. We did not go beat out every vote with Turning Point in Arizona. We didn't do all the work to get Georgia back on the right track with election integrity just so that the Senate parliamentarian, some lady nobody voted for against, can tell us that we still have to pay for sex change operations for children and health care for illegal aliens. This has to be called out. Senate Leader John Thune has a responsibility to get these provisions in the bill.
Exactly. So what has to happen now? Matt Gaetz is absolutely right. Yes, the parliamentarian is a stupid liberal Democrat, okay, that should have been removed by Thune before this process ever started. Thune should have stood up and said, okay, we're going to vote for a new parliamentarian. It should have been voted on by the Republican majority. They should have stuck somebody in there who was worth a darn, and maybe we wouldn't have this issue. But what it comes down to is his second point is that his actual senators hiding behind the parliamentarian. They did not want to stand up to the parliamentarian because they want the money to flow. They want the money to flow to illegals. They want the money to flow to this gender mutilation nonsense. So now what has to happen? The Senate has now kicked it back to the House. We got to get the House to pass this because we got to get the tax cuts done. But now what I believe needs to happen, and what I would like to see Courageous Army reach out to your senators, your congressmen, let them know what you want. This is what I think needs to happen after this. Get the big, beautiful bill in this particular iteration passed. But then we need to start weekly rescission bills that are still under reconciliation. We need weekly reconciliation bills from the House to the Senate, and they can be single or double item rescissions. Cut this, cut this, cut this, cut this. And so Thune needs to install a new parliamentarian, and then we need to go weekly budget cuts, weekly. Every single week, the House needs to vote on a rescission bill, send it to the Senate under reconciliation. They vote, 51 votes, bang, cut the budget. Do it week after week after week after week. And now we will start to really cut down spending. Now we can get the trillions off the national budget that we need to get off. That's what I would love to see happen. Now, I want to follow up with this story with a similar that came out of Chip Roy. Now, Chip Roy is talking from a House perspective because he's still there, and he was talking with Glenn Beck. So check this out.
Tell me, has this thing gotten better or worse?
Unfortunately, Glenn, I believe it's gotten worse. Now, we've not seen the final product out of the Senate. We don't have the text. We've got to review it. I try to be level-headed through these things. I have enormously strong and good friends in the administration who, in good faith, want to see this pass, just as you do, just as I do, just as the American people do. They want to see us move forward legislation to make tax cuts permanent, to deliver on the border funding that we need. You know, Stephen Miller is a longtime friend I've known for 25 years. Russ Vought is a longtime friend I've known for 25 years. We've been working together in the trenches for as long as I can remember. We all want to deliver. The problem is the swamp is going to swamp. And right now we have a bill that, in my estimation, violates the House framework, but more importantly, would add significantly to the deficits. Now, we have differing views.
More than it did. More than it did, right?
By quite a bit, in my view. And look, there's going to be a debate about this, about tax cuts and revenues and all this stuff. And I get it. Baselines, you know, CBO, all these different things. I'm just telling you, Glenn, as objectively as I can. I look at the math and I look at how you factor in economic growth, which I'm doing, factor in revenues and expenditures, and what we're doing on mandatory spending, which is not enough. The fact that we're only repealing half of the Green New Scam, if we're lucky. The fact that we're continuing to allow Medicaid to go to illegals because of some arcane Senate rules. The fact that we're continuing to allow Obamacare subsidies to fund transgender surgeries. The fact that we are going to, in my estimation, have probably a couple of trillion of deficit spending in the first 4 years, which means you're going to have more interest, which means it's going to stack up, all to get savings in the out 5 years. That's not what you and I signed up for. Now, I'm looking at this trying to say, okay, the president wants the tax cuts, so do I. The president wants borders, so do I. I think the president wants us to repeal the entirety of the Green New Scam. I think the president wants us to get good reforms. Be
Absolutely.
Careful,
The president does, but I think the only way to get, I could be wrong, I think the only way to get this done now is get this iteration of the bill passed, but then we go reconciliation after reconciliation weekly, which are simply, the only reconciliation in those bills is rescissions. Cut, 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 cut. In other words, a week from now, the House passes a complete repeal of the Green New Scam, sends it to the Senate under reconciliation. The next week, the House passes a complete elimination of all illegals from Medicaid, as well as defunding of all gender mutilation surgeries, sends it to the Senate under reconciliation. We come back. If it hasn't already been done, completely defund USAID, send it to the Senate under reconciliation. The week after that, completely defund the Department of Education, send it to the Senate under reconciliation. Do that for the next 52 weeks. That's what I say. That's what I would love to see happen. So please call your congressman and your senator, tell them that you want real budget cuts. That's what I'll be doing. Hey, but the good news is the big, beautiful bill is steamrolling down the tracks, which will give Trump his first legislative win. Right now, Trump's approval ratings in some cases are in the 60s, higher than Reagan. This is just absolutely crazy stuff. But Trump is having himself a couple of weeks. And if he gets this big, beautiful bill passed and gets the tax cuts permanent, that's going to be an amazing thing. And the pro-growth measures in the bill will be an amazing thing for the American economy. All right. Rick, bunch of damn politicians. Yeah, yes, exactly. That's exactly what they do. Politicians, are like some things. Everybody has one, but they all stink. All right. Now I want to switch gears here. Before I do, please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share Courageous Media with everybody that you know. Please join us on YouTube as a member of Courageous Army. Would love to have you help us support the show. I want to dive into this other major story that we're looking at today. And that is, if you haven't seen this, it's this ridiculous ICE app, which has garnered now a lot of attention from Holman and Bondi and others. Let's dive right in.
did not respond when I asked them about
ICE raids and mass deportations. One tech developer is pushing back with an app designed to track ICE activity in real time. It's called ICE Block, and it's controversial to say the least. CNN's Claire Duffy is with us now. How does this work, Claire, and what are the legal implications?
Yeah, John, I talked with Joshua Aaron, who is the longtime tech worker who developed this platform, and he said he really wants it to be an early warning system for people about the location of immigrations and customs enforcement officers. So he says he does not want people interfering with those officers' activity, but he does want people to be able to avoid them altogether if they want. So you open the app, it looks like a map, and users can tap the map to report an ICE sighting in their area, and then everybody who uses the platform within 5 miles of that sighting will get a push alert. This is a free iPhone app. It is anonymous. Aaron says he doesn't collect any user data. And what I think is really interesting about this in this moment is we've seen so many of the biggest leaders in tech supporting President Trump. But Aaron is sort of an example of the fact that there are people within the tech industry who are really resistant to Trump's policies. I asked him what he would say to those tech leaders who, for example, were at the inauguration. Here's what he told me. Take a listen.
I understand that you have shareholders to report to. I understand that you have employees that need their paychecks. But at what point do you say enough is enough?
And John, I should say that ICE did not respond when I asked them about this platform and about Aaron's opposition to their activity.
Well, ICE is certainly going to be answering, and we're going to get into that because this is egregious. Okay? And we're going to get into it because I want you to hear this next segment from Fox, which will give you a bigger context. When you listen to CNN's slanted coverage of, oh, they don't want to interfere, they just want to let you know that ICE is in the area. Okay, that is a problem in and of itself. But this is very much like doxing ICE agents, although it's not telling you where their homes are. This is telling you where they are. And that's where the second part of the story becomes extremely important. Check this out from Fox and Outnumbered.
Have been putting their lives on the line to get dangerous, illegal immigrant criminals off of our streets. Since President Trump took office, ICE has been committed to removing the worst of the worst. We've seen them arrest hundreds of illegals with violent criminal histories. Like this Yemeni national who was picked up in Detroit. Officials say that he has several previous convictions, including second-degree murder. Or this Dominican national arrested for alleged fentanyl trafficking. Or this Guatemala national who was charged with 3 counts of aggravated rape of a child in Massachusetts. So while ICE agents are removing these illegal monsters, they've constantly faced danger themselves. ICE says assaults on agents are up over 500% this year. But instead of protecting the brave men and women working for ICE, CNN is out with this. An article touting a brand new app that alerts people of ICE sightings in their area. Now that obviously puts agents at risk, and it gives these dangerous illegals a chance to get away. ICE says.
Think about that. Attacks on ICE agents are up 400%. And this fool has rolled out an app that tells you where ICE agents are operating. This is a recipe for disaster. This is putting our federal ICE agents at risk, in harm's way, way beyond they were now, what they are now. This actually calls down the mob on top of them. Beyond the fact, it also calls for the illegals to get out of the area, which we're going to deal with in a second. But let's finish this clip.
As CNN never reached out for comment. And acting ICE Director Todd Lyons says this in a statement, quote, CNN's promotion of an ICE spotting app is reckless and irresponsible. They are willfully endangering the lives of officers who put their lives on the line every day and enabling dangerous criminal aliens to evade U.S. law. Is this simply reckless journalism or overt activism? And DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin reacted earlier this morning on America's Newsroom.
Examples like these apps are absolutely obstructing justice. What our ICE enforcement officers are doing is enforcing the rule of law. If these rioters, these activists, and these politicians don't like the law, they should change it. Don't go after our ICE law enforcement. It's disgusting, it's wrong, and it's un-American.
Professor, she said it perfectly. It is un-American and it is frightening.
I think it's worse. I think it could be criminal.
Ding, 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 ding. Absolutely. It is disgusting. It is un-American. It puts our ICE agents at risk. But beyond that, it is, and very well could be, I believe it is criminal. Now, we're going to dive in. Pam Bondi's got something to say, and then we're going to dive in with Tom Homan. But I want everybody to remember the judge in Wisconsin, the judge who was arrested and indicted for helping a criminal illegal alien avoid ICE. She actually sent the ICE officers down to the chief judge to be in basically a scam that they had to go get something done while she spirited the illegal alien out a back door. Fortunately, ICE had a third agent there who was also in plain clothes, who didn't appear obvious, and he was able to follow them, so they were still able to arrest that illegal alien. And at the same time, they knew exactly what the judge did. But realize that in that scenario, no one actively withstood ICE. No one interfered in that. They prevented ICE from doing their job. No, she simply misdirected ICE while she tried to get the illegal away. And she is charged with a crime. This app does the same thing. It helps illegals escape. That is conspiracy to commit obstruction of justice, conspiracy to illegally aid and abet a criminal. There's all sorts of things going on here. So let's check in with Bondi, and then we'll check in with Homan. Let me know what you think in the chat. Would love to know what you guys think in the comments.
Our federal agents from the Justice Department could be injured. He's giving a message to criminals where our federal officers are, and he cannot do that. And we are looking at it. We are looking at him, and he better watch out, because that's not a protected speech. That is threatening the lives of our law enforcement officers throughout this country. And shame on CNN. I just saw that for the first time when you showed it, that they're promoting that app. That's shame on them for doing that. That could hurt our law enforcement officers who are out there protecting them, protecting all of us every single day.
Now realize this could be a crime up front because it's actively obstructing ICE from doing their job. But think about what happens when ICE shows up in a neighborhood, a mob descends, and you've got ICE agents that get hurt or, God forbid, lose their lives. This Aaron guy, the founder of this app, could absolutely be criminally liable for conspiracy to commit whatever crime, assault, homicide, you name it. He could be an accessory after the fact. There's all sorts of things that he is opening himself up to, and the people on this app could potentially be opening themselves up to if ICE agents were to get hurt. Now, I want you to hear from Tom Homan, because Tom wasn't nearly as kind as Pam Bondi was. Check this out.
Let's talk really quickly about the excellent agents of ICE. Turns out right now that CNN is pushing an app to track ICE agents to help criminal aliens evade being detained. We have the article up right here along with the clip. What's your response to CNN?
It's disgusting. I mean, I cannot believe we're in a world where the men and women who enforce the law are the bad guys, and one who broke the law, they're victims. And look, it's already a dangerous job. You know, ICE agents are arresting the worst of the worst. President Trump committed from day one. We're going to concentrate our effort on public safety threats and national security threats. So right there, the job's already dangerous. But when you're out there tracking ICE movements and giving people a heads up they're coming, that just puts the danger at a whole new level. You know, it's only a matter of time for someone sits in hiding and waits for an ICE agent and tries to take them out. I mean, this is horrendous that a national media outlet will be out there trying to forecast law enforcement operations throughout the country. I mean, it's incredible where we're at as a nation. And I think DOJ needs to look at this and see if they're crossing that line. I think we need to send a strong message that we need to protect our law enforcement personnel.
Absolutely. People need to be arrested. There need to be chrome bracelets involved. They need to be perp walked. Tom Homan is absolutely right. This is ridiculous. Now, and don't buy into all of the bad narratives, the untrue narratives of ICE is now suddenly targeting just, they're targeting agriculture workers. They're targeting people at Home Depots. They're just targeting average, everyday, common illegal immigrants who've been here for 20 years and paid their taxes. No, remember what Tom Homan said in the very beginning. He said they are going to go after the criminal illegal aliens, which means what they want to do is every time one of those illegal aliens is arrested on any charge and they're in a jail, they want a call from the local authorities because they have an ICE detainer on them. They walk into the jail in a controlled environment and they take that illegal alien away and deport him. But all of these sanctuary cities and sanctuary states have denied them that privilege. And he said, when that happens, what we will do is we will still arrest that individual, but we will go into the community to arrest them. And that means when we go into the community, we are going to cast a wide net. And everybody else in the vicinity is going to get tagged. And if they're illegal, they are going to be deported as well. So all of the people decrying the fact that ICE is now going after other places have them only themselves to blame because they pushed ICE out into the community instead of in the jails. So this is all their own fault. And it's only going to get worse now that you've got idiots like this James Aaron, or I forget his name, with this app who are actively putting ICE in danger and actively obstructing the work that they do. Please let me know what you think in the comments. Kelly Ramos, Resnap is in the house. Kelly Ramos is in the house. These people we started if America fails. Yes, they are absolutely ungrateful. You are 100% correct. Hey, please let me know what you think in the comments. Please like, comment, and subscribe. We really appreciate you joining us as a member of the Courageous Army on YouTube or on Patreon. Also share this with everybody that you know. Help us break the YouTube algorithm. Would love for that. Thank you so much for being here. Remember, God is good and he is sovereign. It'll all be good in the end. Till I catch you next time.